Live. Hey, how are you? How are you? We are live. Good to see everyone.
Hello.
And welcome to the marriage,
Check in
the
live.
marriage check-in live. Yeah, we are here. It is 5 p.m. here in New York City. Wherever you are from. I know some people are in, down south and the like. And we just want to say welcome to everyone.
Thank you
And
for joining us.
And thank you for joining us. It's a beautiful afternoon, cold, but we're really nice here in New York City. We have a live chat going. And so we just want to make sure some technical things are taken care of. And but other than that, so you want to be able to check on your phone, make sure how the feed looks on your phone, like just signing in. And then we go with that. So cool. Well, for this check-in, for those who are new to this whole approach, we've decided that once a month, me and Pam have been doing what we call weekly check-ins, which are just small little encouragements for our husbands and wives and about our marriages, where we get a chance to share some of our life experience, some of our the challenges, good, bad, and ugly. But me as a marriage counselor and us being married now for 31, 31
31.
years, just our experience. So it's a mixture of just our life experience, including learning from the things that we've messed up on. And you got to go to YouTube. The things we've messed up on to uh, the things that we've learned from, and but also some of my clinical training as well, and what we've gotten from that clinical training. So that's what it's about. Is that a good way of summarizing?
That's good. I know one of the things we were also thinking about is providing a resource for people who have questions, for people who are helping other people to be able to look at
Yes.
our videos
Yes.
and give some content, some practicals, some things that they can do to work on their marriages. And so this week we got some really good,
Some feedback,
some
right?
good feedback. People sharing how they have been using the information to help different couples. We heard from a friend, they met with another friend and they just sat and watched our videos. So
And that
that's
was
the
the idea.
goal. Yeah, and that's the goal. That's the idea, right? To be able to help each
Yep.
other.
Oh, I'm sorry. I put the sound.
You can touch it.
Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, so that works out. That's what we've been trying
Yeah,
to do.
yeah, because it was this idea of like this is gonna sound strange, but we definitely didn't want to just entertain. We
No,
we wanted to be
no.
able to provide a practical tool, like Pam shared, that can challenge us, but can also
Hmm.
help our marriages. I think that
Yep.
marriages need support,
Yep.
and anything. Sometimes something as simple as small as what we're doing here can be a good thing. And if we do that for a few people, we are good.
Yes.
We are happy.
We're happy.
And so I know some people are beginning to sort of sign in.
Yep.
Now, we're going to be doing is that we will have a chat. So the chat is up and going.
Yep.
So the way it works is as you put a question in, it'll pause. It does like a 2-minute delay, so to speak. So that gives us time to kind of, so it's not like boom, 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 or a rapid fire. But if you have a question, rapid fire, oh, there goes the double. If you have a question or a comment, you can be able to do that. Someone that, for example, thank you, Don. So we get an idea. We were just in a leaders meeting in the Zoom just now.
Don and
Donald Weber
Olivia.
said, "Good evening, Antoine and Pam." So we see. So it was like a 2-minute delay from the time Don entered that statement, then or Olivia, and then then it'll come up, and then we'll be able to see.
Yeah.
And so
They're
that's how
in
it
the
works.
house.
Yeah.
Don and Olivia.
I know some people are
Welcome.
still kind of new to YouTube, so I'm going to give you that.
We're new to YouTube.
Yeah, all right. I'm acting like, oh, we've been doing this forever. No,
Listen,
we're
we
too
are
long.
new to YouTube.
Yeah, but
And we've been trying to be responsive to the different things that people have been saying and the feedback we've been given. And people have been sending me instructional videos on how to do
YouTube stuff.
So yeah,
I
it's been
shout
a lot
out
of
to
fun.
Sir Lennox Martin
Yes,
in
Sir
Houston,
Lennox.
Texas, a great friend, and really has just been a great support. Like
Yep, he's
just
been
giving us
helping us.
ideas, and man, he's like, he just wants to be on our payroll. That's all he wants. That's all he
We
trying to
don't
do.
got no payroll.
We ain't got no payroll, but look, I want to share this. Well, what we have been talking about is practical. One big practical we've been talking about is something called I nicknamed it the 5 P's. See, what do you talk about? P's like green beans? No, just capital letter P. with this idea that it really is a really good tradition to have in your marriage, a time where you reflect on the relationship,
Yes.
where it's not just a time to learn or talk about yourself or your spouse in a sense. It is, but it's more about the relationship. How are we doing? Where you regularly have a time during the week where you just sit down for an hour or so
Yeah.
and you just check in with each other. That's where this whole came from. That it's a practice that when we've done it, it's helped us tremendously. It's a practice that very few couples do until there's a problem. Usually, when there's a problem, they start saying, like, kind of, you start asking the question, what happened? Why are we like this? What's going on with us? But then when things go back to norm, we just moving, dropping kids off at the games and the dance recitals, moving and picking them up from school, doing the homework. We're moving, have an argument, make up, then move. But we don't have a time just to talk about us. And in my training as a marriage therapist, they have this thing called a great practice is what they call in my Gottman training, they call it the State of the Union meeting. And that's what those areas are kind of came from. So it was, if you go, you got the 5 P's memorized?
Oh, yeah. The first one is praise.
Go ahead. What's that?
So that's where we tell each other what we really love about each other. What have I noticed this week that you've done well, that I really want to stop and intentionally tell you you did an awesome job doing that.
Yep. So you start this meeting with something like this. You think of at least 3 things. I suggest you go to more, but at least 3, where things that you've seen in your spouse, in your husband or your wife that you appreciate, and you share it. You look them in the eye, you say, you know what? I'm really grateful about, man, you've been really gentle with me because I've been sick. And man, the way you kind of, brought me food in the bed and you called on my friends, said I'm resting. Man, you've been really gentle. I really appreciate that. I value that because that's what you do. But you praise your spouse. You lay it on thick, but be honest. Like, one of the things I encourage is to make it detailed. Don't just say you awesome, you great, you awesome, you great, you great, and you awesome. That's generic. But think of a quality that you've seen in them and tell them.
Yes.
And all the spouse can say is thank you. So that starts off the meeting. What is that about? Maybe how many minutes could be?
3 or 4.
3 or 4 minutes, but you're really just listening. Thank you. And then you move into the second one,
which is plan the fun.
Plan fun stuff. You say, what do you mean? Well, that's not deep. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Fun is very serious. Where you have a chance where you look at your crazy busy schedules for some of us, and we decide, what are we going to do this week that's fun for us? What are we going to do this week that's fun for us? Lasagna ready? Like, what is that going to be?
Sorry, I'll be right back.
Be right back. But what are we going to do this week that is fun for us? So you plan it. You have your date books out, week to week. So, okay, man, there's this restaurant down up in Yonkers I really want to be able to go to. They said it was great. We should go there for our date night this week. Oh, okay, wait. So we got to get a babysitter, right? You plan the fun stuff. You know what? There's a street fair this week. It's up in White Plains. You plan what you want to do together. You may want to plan a romantic evening. You may want to plan an intimate getaway at a hotel. But put it in your schedule. Talk to each other about it. Get creative. Planning fun stuff is really rare sometimes because life can be. So what I've seen a lot, to correct me if I'm wrong, Pam, but I've seen a lot of times is people will tend to, they'll go to events, but they won't necessarily plan their own events.
Yeah, that's something that we notice. So for Antoine and I, we've done this, I guess, for 31 years. Even before we got married, we would have date nights on Saturdays, and we always have date nights on Saturdays. And so some Saturdays we try to include other people with us. We try not to just make it just us, especially now being empty nesters. Sometimes we want to just hang out with our friends or whatever. And we realize how often couples don't plan a date. I guess they consider the time that they run errands and do stuff together.
Going to the supermarket
as being together. But
whatever.
when we'll call and say, we're going to grab something at a diner, or we're going to do whatever, they can't even get themselves together because they haven't thought about, like, just between the two of us, something that invests in each other. And so I know we talk about this all the time, but it's really important. Like, I appreciate that Antoine will, look around and think of something I like, or something he even likes that he wants me to do with him. And we do that on Saturdays. We do our running around together. We do
Of
our errands
course.
together. We do all those things together, but
Costco.
that's not a date. A date is a date. And so don't take that for granted.
Absolutely. So plan the fun stuff. So you sit down, may take you 15 minutes. Just plan it out. But it makes a big difference to
It
plan out the fun
does.
stuff.
It
That
does.
next P stands for
Practicals.
practicals. And that's where you get a chance to kind of, when are we doing laundry? Who's going to clean the bathroom this week? Who's going to take out the garbage? When is this going to happen? We got doctor appointments.
Practicals will happen. That's where I think most married couples spend most of their time communicating.
Yeah.
It's on the practicals, right? It's like life has got to happen, but it's not your whole life.
It's not your entire life, but it's got to happen.
It's not your whole life.
Who's cleaning the bathroom?
It does need to happen.
Who's going to, like, all that kind. But you got to plan out this week. So look, because if you don't, life will just kind of, how it is. It just gets overwhelming, especially if you got children. You want to plan out the practical household things that just got to get done. When are we doing a lot of us in tax season? When are we going to sit down and do our taxes?
Right.
So, but you have your date book out. You don't just talk about it. My suggestion is have your date book out. And then as you get to the last two P's is protest and prayer. Protest is where you get a chance to voice what are the issues that you just want to talk to your husband or your spouse about. It may be something that's bothering you all week, something that's a concern, something that you really kind of wish you're not sure. Maybe you may even just feel something don't feel right. You're not sure what it is.
Right. That happened to us this week. So I didn't feel like it was a protest in the sense of,
like,
remember we did the whole thing on issues.
Right.
Like, I didn't feel like it was an issue. I just felt like, though, it was something that I wanted us to just talk about. I felt we needed to talk about. And so we I kept saying, Antoine, this is not really a protest. This might more be just something I need to state. And so we talked. And then the next one was, well, it may not be a protest, but it's just.
But we talked.
We talked.
It needed to talk.
Some things are not really a complaint, but it's just, I would really like us to work on this, or pay attention to this, or do this, or something like that.
Yeah, and they don't, and they sometimes some things just won't come up in normal conversation.
It's true.
So you slow things down.
It's true.
And you know that right now we're only gonna do a little bit of complaining right now. Like, I'm not complaining, protests we're gonna do right now. But it helps.
Yeah, it helps.
But in the spirit of forgiveness, in the spirit of solutions, in the spirit of requests, we try and work it out so that by the end of the conversation, it's like, you know what, hon? All right, that makes sense. We'll work on this, or we're gonna do this, that. And then you wrap it all up
with a bow on top.
With a bow on top, with prayer. You wrap it all up with prayer. You kind of get a chance to pray that evening. But it's cool because now you have something that you can, that your prayer together is very reflective. It's very sober. It's very clear about what you need to be praying about, whether it's in the fun stuff or it's about the protest. But that gives you, when I finish doing my couples counseling with people, I tell them that meeting is probably going to be the most important, way after I'm in your rear view mirror as a couples counselor. That's probably what's going to be lasting you a lifetime. And that's going to prepare your marriage for whatever twists and turns life is going to throw at you. And we know life throws twists and turns, diagnosis, deaths, weaknesses, struggles. For those of us who are disciples and Christians, sometimes it'll be sin. There'll be major issues that we do that come up. But that little time really sets you up to be able to handle almost anything. So that's why we keep repeating it. We're not doing it because we're getting old. We actually want to really encourage you.
And it's funny because every week we think, we probably said that too much. And then we'll talk to people and we're like, but that's protest. That's prayer. That's the praise part. And so it really is fundamental and It's important.
It's her.
It's
It's
worthy.
both.
And so Antoine's gonna segue into.
Well, but segue. We just had one topic we wanted to share today, and the topic came from Sir Lennox Martin. I thought it was a very, very good point. And the question he voiced is this, and I got three things I could share. And of course, this is open. Pam's gonna have her views as well.
But also, there are several of you on now. Use the chat. So as we're talking, respond back, ask a question. It may trigger something. Remember, live is open. So we're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. You know, we come with
Absolutely.
an idea. Antoine's going to
I'm
bring
gonna
it up.
toss it out.
But if you want to veer off and you want us to talk about something else, like, yeah, but what about bring
Yep.
it up?
And we'll wrap it up just around
Bring it up.
around 5:45. We'll start wrapping it up
Yeah.
before 6. But so here's the question: how to be heard without raising your voice? How to be heard without raising your voice? Look, we all know. Okay, don't raise your voice. Don't become critical and yelling and nagging. Don't get so frustrated that you've got to shout at your spouse or like, I said it up. You don't that you. But sometimes we can feel like our husband or our wife just ain't hearing us, and so we're told, yeah, we got to do things the right way, the spiritual way, the gentle way, and not to raise your voice and not to go to critical places. But we really feel like sometimes, how do you pull that off? How sometimes you feel like your spouse doesn't really hear
How do
you.
you realistically
Right.
get that done?
How do you realistically get that done? How
So-
to be heard without raising your voice?
So Antoine and I are not yellers. Like there are
Yeah,
some people
even
that
even our worst arguments,
there are
you'd
some
be like,
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
really,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm really mad
There are
at you right
some
now.
people.
I'm so mad right now. I can
But isn't
turn
that
this.
kind of creepy?
I
Because
can
some
turn
people they
this.
get quiet as they get
Yeah, we don't
angrier.
yell. We get quiet. But
We're not yellers. Like we don't scream and holler. You know, you won't hear us across the street. Like we have neighbors that when they fight, we know word for word what is
some people are
happening
just
up
loud.
in that
Yeah,
place
they're
because
yellers.
they are screaming at the top. So we don't do that. But I know for me, there was a lot of time where Antoine felt like I didn't listen. Where you felt like
Mm.
I didn't listen. And so what Antoine would do is say it over and over again. He didn't, and in my mind, it was like he was yelling because he would say it again, and then he would feel like it ain't my conviction, so he gonna say it in a different way, and then oh, you didn't respond the way I
that was a
wanted you
debate
to
in itself.
respond.
Yeah, I know, right? So like, I wanted to say that, like Pam was saying, just because you're not screaming, but the idea of how to be heard without raising your voice, how to be heard without being critical, without being nagging, without being nasty in how you do things, or the other extreme, kind of withdrawing. But your goal is this: you want your husband or your wife to really just hear you for once sometimes, and they don't. There'll be all the other areas they're great, but there'll be some area that they just won't seem to maybe respond at times. So how can you do that in a way that's good, that's healthy, and that's spiritual? I want to. It's funny. We just had a message today from Maurice, one of the evangelists in our fellowship, and he was going through the book of Philemon. I cannot think of a better base than read through the book of Philemon. I want to give you three ideas that we can talk about that are directly related from that book. Is this number one? How to be heard without raising your voice? First step: to be heard, you've got to be grateful. To be heard, you've got to be grateful. To be heard, you've got to know what you want. And to be heard, you've got to, accountability has to be clear. You got to be grateful. You got to know what you want. And the accountability has to be clear. So, what am I talking about? And I want to hear what your views on this are.
Okay.
Number one, if you look in Philemon 1 through 4, just read through the book and the situation. The first 4 verses in all of Paul's letters. Most times we're not heard is because in our relationship, our spouse already has not, doesn't, may not, I'm gonna say may not sense that they are appreciated for the good they're already doing.
Good point.
They don't feel validated. They don't feel appreciated. And it may not be like a resentment, but we don't say enough what we value, what we appreciate. The more we can verbalize gratitude and point out the good and encourage our spouse during the week, we gain influence. If you give your husband a peck on the cheek every day for something that you appreciate them doing that you know they're going to do anyway, you have more influence on that husband than the woman who does not. Gratitude gains influence. We don't get enough encouragement. We talked about this before. And if you can be the one, I don't care if the whole world, especially as African Americans, tears you down. When you come home, you know that this is the place where I am validated, treated special, and what I do, man, you have some influence. So my first point would be simply be grateful, not just in your head, starting in your head, but then verbalize, say it, say it, say it.
That, I guess that's true. When I think about it, the times that I can listen are the times when I feel like you've been praising me. And so that's true. I definitely agree with that. I think about if every time we have a conversation, you bringing up something I need to work on or something I'm
The
not.
one thing you haven't changed yet.
Yeah, right. So there's 5 things I've done, and you pick the one thing I didn't do, and you feel like you got to help me with that. I'm less likely to listen than if you say, you did good on this, you did good on that, you did good on that. Like that makes me more willing to listen. I could go for
yes,
that.
it's not a
I could go for
guarantee, but I'm gonna tell you what, you're setting yourself up to win to be heard.
Because
in
isn't
that
there
area.
like a formula? There's a formula for like people will listen.
Yeah, I
right,
forgot that.
forever.
Yes.
Isn't it like 2080 something
It
like
was some.
that?
It is all kind of little psychological or motivational things they've
I
done.
guess
Where
out of 10,
something like for every, I should know this, but for every, let's say this, for every one thing you point out that's negative,
Right.
you need like 4 to 5 positives.
right?
There's a
Right.
lot of.
I think it's higher. I think it was like not 8 or 9
Yeah.
positive. So think about if you're going to correct
Positive.
your spouse.
Well, the Gottman ratio was this. They had a thing where they said that when you look at the interactions you have with your husband or your wife, the marriages that were doing well, like reportedly doing well, even when they were going through conflict, they had a 5-to-1 ratio of positive interactions.
Okay, so if I'm going to correct you,
Even
I
during
have
an
to
argument,
praise you 5 times before I could correct
it
you.
was so.
and
For
it'll go
example,
well.
it'd be like 5-to-1 ratio in an argument would be something like this. I'm maybe exaggerating. So here's the argument. You make me so angry because you didn't take out the garbage. You know I love you, and you know I'm in this to the long haul.
And you know you're my girl.
You're my girl. And you know, but thank you so much for what you did the other day. But you didn't take the garbage out. I'm still so mad. But I'm sorry. Sometimes I know I don't take the garbage out. So what I just did, you'll notice,
Wow, that's mature.
was still a complaint, but I talked about how much I brought in
It's true.
our relationship. I brought in what I could have done
True.
better. I put my hand on her shoulder and said, but like I had a way high ratio to my one complaint of you didn't take out the garbage. So it's just anything that that was that 5-to-1.
That's
ratio.
good. That's good. Okay, so that's the first thing. So you listen better if you get praised.
If you get praise and
you're grateful.
And you're grateful both for your spouse and you're grateful for the relationship. You notice in that 5-to-1, I just express things like, we're going to get through this. Things like,
it's not
I'm sorry.
It's not us against them.
So, sometimes just saying I'm sorry. I'll be honest, some of you listening, you may be so into your spouse won't move on this issue. Maybe there's something you've got to apologize for in some other area that you don't even realize.
Wow.
Off the top of my head, the wife who feels like our husband won't listen as far as XYZ, how's the sex life going? Not that it's tit for tat, but
we all got our stuff.
We all got our stuff. So say, maybe it'd be good to ask, man, I feel like I want to be heard, but am I being that for my spouse? That's probably just another point.
And it's true. Look in your heart. Because sometimes we're petty without realizing we're petty. Like sometimes we feel like, let's say Antoine said he's going to work on how he's spending money. And I'm going to work on cooking every day. And I could be cooking every day and then look at Antoine and be like,
Oh, well, yeah,
but
yeah.
he's still spending money. And so you
That's
may
true.
not verbalize, say it, but you could get petty in your heart and be like, well, I'm not going to cook as much either.
It's
Because
funny.
I don't feel heard. I don't feel respected that he's doing what I need him to do. So I'm not going to
That's true.
yell and scream and holler. I'm just going to ease off on the cooking roll.
Yeah, you don't want to get petty. That can happen. That can happen. I can build a resentment. But I know that even in that case,
But you have to admit, it is hard to keep
it is hard.
going,
It is
even
hard.
though the other person is
Pl-
not holding their end.
Please don't take our what's that word? Encouragements for ease. I'm not saying ease.
It's not
please.
easy.
I'm not saying that at all.
But it's what God expects.
God expects.
And
And
imagine if God got petty.
the smartest person on this planet who ever lived was Jesus Christ. I have no doubt about that. And I know that Jesus made sure people were loved and appreciated. That's why he could be so strong, and yet people kept coming to him.
Right.
They knew he was safe. Gratitude and appreciation keep things safe, like you said. But if you're petty because you feel a little resentful, you're actually lessening your influence.
Yeah.
To be heard, which is not easy though. I agree, but we got to do that. Second thing I was thinking related is be clear on what you want from your husband or your wife. I recently got together with a couple in a session where the one spouse, as they were talking, realized, I don't know what I want, but they were annoyed. But they really couldn't figure out what they wanted. So we spent time them thinking and talking through what do they actually want. It was like a surprise to them. Like, so I know a lot of us, it's funny, we have complaints. He don't hear me. She don't hear me. He don't hear me. Yet, truth is, you never really put before them what you want. It's this idea of how can your spouse shine for you? In other words,
what's your yes?
What is your yes? Literally visualize. You can do this right now as you are sitting. Any complaint you have against your husband or your wife, I would like you to visualize something that can happen in the next 7 days that would just bring a smile to your face in this area. But visualize it. What do you see? What are they doing? What does it feel like when you see it? The thing that would kind of make you say, oh, that would be so good. Man, that vision is a clarity on what you're going to ask. Just make sure it's reasonable. If your vision is, man, it would be so good if my husband could take out a reservation. I was going to say Cheesecake Factory, but they don't take reservations. If our husband we could set aside the time, go to Cheesecake Factory, just get away, get a babysitter, and just have a great time. That would be so cool. We haven't done that in 2 months. That's your request. That's your request.
I know that's true. I think we talk about this all the time, how we know our no's, right? We know what we don't want. We know what we don't like. We know what doesn't feel good. We know what annoys us, what irritates us. But it takes a little bit more work to think, but what would make me feel like, for me, right? I need quiet, like just quiet, no talking, no moving around, no expectations, just like time to just sit and be quiet. And so I would get irritated at Antoine because he's noisy, right? So he's moving around, he's doing this, he's talking, he's listening to something. He want to talk about what he's listening to, right? So Antoine's very busy, 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 busy. That's that only child syndrome, right? And I would just get irritated until we finally got to the point where it was like, see, he's always busy. We got to the point where I could say, Antoine, this is what I need. I need stop. I need to go and sit in Starbucks for 2 hours, and I need you to not call me during that time. And it took a maturity for him to not feel like I was pushing him to the side and I really didn't want to spend time with him, but to understand that this is what Pam needs. And girl time is what Pam needs. And it took me a while because I would just sneak and do it, and Antoine would be mad, and I would just not call him and go off, whatever. But I learned to say, "This is what
I need.
This is
It's
what
what
I
I need.
need." And Antoine would ask me, "Did you set up your time with girls today? Because you know you need that." And so it took a while to feel heard from Antoine. I felt like he was just always pushing aside what I needed, and I got louder and louder and more rebellious and more upset and more irritated until I was able to articulate, I know what I need. I need 3 hours with my friends
Yes.
uninterrupted, or
Yep.
I need 2 hours by myself uninterrupted, or whatever it was, or
Yep.
whatever your
Whatever
request
your
is.
request is, your request may be, man, I just want to have sex. I just been,
Yep.
it's like pulling teeth. But you wouldn't say pulling teeth. That may be in your thought, but you would visualize, man, you would visualize that evening you would like to have.
And I just want you to say yes.
And you would just kind of
And
gently
just say
just say it.
yes.
But if you don't know it, if you can't voice what you want, if you look in Philemon, Paul voiced, Paul was a genius as well. Paul voiced, and but not just genius, head knowledge in terms of loving people. He he really asked for what he needed from I forgot the guy he was writing to from Philemon. He really asked. He asked specifically.
He said, "Do this and do this."
Ask your spouse. It's
Exactly.
called we call those reasonable requests. Make sure it's reasonable. For example, I've heard this. People want to, and can be very frustrating for your husband or wife. They'll say something like, "I just need you to be considerate."
What does that
That's
even
not
mean?
a request.
What does that even mean?
That's not a request. I need you to be loving. I need to feel loved in this marriage.
Yes.
That's not a request. That's a complaint, vague complaint, but you're not asking anything. Saying something like, "Could we go on a date night? That would be great," is a request. Could you please call when you get off work so that I don't worry, because I really get worried sometimes? That's a request. We haven't, it's been a while. I've really been missing you. We need to have a romantic evening. That would be cool. What if we could do something this week? That's a request. You want it to be reasonable. You don't want it to be, but you definitely don't want it to be this general thing that leaves the husband or the wife kind of feeling, how do I fulfill this? Like it's some of the, basically one of the biggest ones that we can do sometimes is, I just don't feel happy in this marriage.
What does that even mean?
That you're really frustrating yourself, number one, and then you're frustrating your husband or your wife, because now there's this burden of, I've got to make them happy. I've got to kind of figure it out. Well, he should know. but you can do it.
You know what too, Antoine? Sometimes you got to figure out if you agree with the reasonable request. So, for example, Antoine would say, "My wife is disrespectful." He would say it all the time. "My wife is disrespectful." I didn't know what that meant. Like, I just felt like as a human being, I'm disrespectful. But specifically what he was saying was, I want my wife to talk to me before she makes decisions that affect me and the family. Because I would just go with it. I'd have an idea and I'm going with it. And then I come back to Antoine. Now he got to get on board because I already worked it all out. Then talk to other people, put the money, made the whole plan. And now Antoine got to get on board. So what he specifically meant was, I need my wife not to have ideas, but before she put the ideas in place, let's talk about
it. That was the request.
In my heart of hearts, the reason it took me so long is because I didn't believe that I needed to get permission from him. My attitude was, "You're not my father. I don't got to get permission from you. I know how to think. I got the money. It's my money. And I know how to make plans. And I'm going to make the plans." And until I dealt with that, I couldn't get on board.
You couldn't honor the request.
I couldn't honor the request.
That's a great point.
And sometimes we say yes when we don't really agree. And so therefore,
we won't do it.
We don't do it. And then the husband feels unheard or the wife feels unheard.
Yes.
Right. Like if your husband say, let's make love 3 times a week. 3 times a week. And you go, yes, That's a reasonable request. But in your heart, you really
ain't
feel
doing
like
that. You ain't doing that. Right?
I'm busy. I got 3
Yeah,
kids.
but now you're talking about
I'm not doing
but now
that.
you're talking about that's in essence that's a lie, or you're lacking integrity. So
Or you,
that
yeah,
hurts.
like you
That's not
gotta.
good.
Sometimes though, you say yes because you think you really do want to do it, and then as it comes up, you're like, I don't really feel good about this. So then you gotta go back and you gotta fix that thing.
You got to fix it. Yeah. Yeah, look, one thing I could say, look, my like I was saying my point, be clear, make the requests manageable, reasonable, how your spouse can shine for you. If you can't visualize it,
It's
then there's
probably
nothing
too.
to ask
Yeah,
for.
it's probably
It
too
may be something you've
complicated.
got to work on. I
Yep.
don't feel loved. Maybe it's something I've got to, maybe there's something going on with me that I've got to work on, that I don't feel loved in this marriage. Because if you can't visualize what you want yet, it's how can you be heard? Like, other than just to make it just makes it very, it can make you, that can be feel very unsafe, because you get nervous, like, man, my wife or my husband keeps saying there's something missing, and
But
I'm
then
not,
you get frustrated because you don't
because you
really
get
know what.
frustrated.
So you
Yeah,
do this and that's not it. Then you do
then
that.
that's
That's
not
not it.
it. And that's very, and that could be very, like, just for both people, not just for you, but for your
For
husband or
both
your
of them.
wife. It
Mm-hmm.
can be a frustration. Please
That's true.
break it down into reasonable request. Uh, and then, of course, we're talking on the other end, you got to be a giver. On the other side, you got to be a giver. But we're talking more about being heard. You want to be heard, have something very specific, make it clear. What are your needs? Make it reasonable, and kind of related to this. This is the third I want to share, because this something came up and recently, and I was like, yeah, that's true. This idea that accountability. You say, what do you mean by accountability?
You're not my father.
Well, no,
I'll
not that, not
never.
that. Well, that too. That could be a little. That's another topic, I think. But when I say accountability, I mean this. It's one thing to say, you know what? Yeah, my need is, I want us to. We haven't gone on a date. I really want us to have a date night. That's my reasonable request. It'll be so awesome. We could have a date. I love you. Let's go on a date. That's just something. It could be anything, right? If you do not have in your request and in the person's response, if you don't make it clear, one, when that reasonable request has got to have a date, it's got to have a time limit on it. So, are you talking this week, this month,
That's
this
good.
year?
That's good.
So, because if you want to be heard, part of the clarity has to be set in time, what you want to see happen. My husband keeps putting the socks outside the hamper. It's driving me crazy. You request for him to not do it. Do you want him to start immediately? Like, or you want it to get
like
there?
right now, go
Like
pick
right
up
now?
those
Like
socks.
when? That sounds like trivial. But here's why I say it. But accountability, I mean, is this: without time, without a date, without a goal of terms of when you want this to happen, you can't hold them accountable. So this is what I mean: is this: if the accountability is you're going to go on a date beginning this weekend, and the person agrees, accountability is if they do not do it and it does not happen, you can have a follow-up conversation. And now maybe there needs to be, you got to own up. There needs to maybe an apology. Maybe there needs to be a reflection. Maybe it needs to be a, man, what happened this week? You said that we would go on a date, and I was really hurt because we didn't. But now that's a good conversation to have, because now you got to deal with some issues of why didn't that happen this week? What was it you got? Like, what happened? Like, just, and still, look, it may be an argument, but that's an argument that may get somewhere because there's accountability. It's not just, you know what I mean? If that makes sense. And then when I say accountability, I'm talking about with each other, because without a date, there you can't really hold each other accountable. You can just point the finger, and then maybe other people. One of the benefits we've had when you're in a church is if you have somebody that is mentoring you as a couple, it helps to have somebody that's objective, that the other spouse sometimes may need encouragement. I have made things that I've said yes, yes, yes to Pam and did not follow through. And it helped to have somebody gently say, but Antoine, didn't you say you were going to? I remember you said that, right? Right? No. Well, yeah, I said that. Like we need to be challenged sometimes. Let's be honest. Sometimes we're not heard because the accountability is not there in our marriage because it's vague. So the spouse will keep saying, well, you didn't say when, or we're so isolated, and one spouse may be a little on the rigid side. And sometimes you need an outside voice to gently, what's the word? Nudge. But we got to be, look, we got to be able to face the facts when we don't do what we say we're going to do and somebody challenge us, meaning call us out. You said you were going to go on a date with your wife this week, bro. What happened? Well, I had to work. You know, it was like overtime. Well, but what you could have done is you could have just given your wife, okay, we'll go next week. Could you do that? Well, yeah, I guess I could. Actually, you know what? To be honest, I forgot.
Right.
I forgot.
I like you said that accountability has to come with a time, because what happens is we'll make an agreement that something's going to happen and then it doesn't happen. And so let's say this Saturday he don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And then so now all week I'm thinking about it, right? And then the next Saturday come and he don't do it. Now I'm a little bit more annoyed. And then the next week he don't do it. So now I don't want to go. Now I'm like, you're a liar.
Dang, you don't want to go now.
You're a liar. You don't keep your word, and da 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 da. Whereas if you put time, you can go back before. You know how the Bible says that a bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. The timepiece of accountability does two things. One, it doesn't give you a time to like let it go deep and get a mean spirit attitude, like I don't like you, I don't want to be your friend anymore. But two, it helps you to talk about it when you're not in the moment. And that's why the 5Ps are good, because now you're in your 5Ps time. You're talking about stuff. It's not the date. It's not the Saturday that you planned all week. I'm gonna wear this dress and this outfit, and then he don't even remember. It's now a peaceful time, and you're not in it. And because you're not in it right that moment, you could talk about your disappointment and hurt without that little tinge of meanness.
Yeah, because you got something to talk through.
Right.
You got something to talk through.
Right.
I just got to read this. If you look in the book of Philemon, just to show you the heart but it's the convicting nature of accountability. Philemon 1:22. Remember that Paul was trying to get Philemon to make the right choice in relationship to a slave who had been converted by Paul, like he was converted by Paul, and to treat him as a brother, to not hold him to the punishments of that time, and to just really kind of basically be Christian in how he treats now a new young brother in the faith, even though he should have gotten in a lot of trouble. And so he's appealing to him, right? And then, but the end of the letter, he says, and one thing more,
here we go.
Prepare a guest room for me, because I hope to be restored to you and answer to your prayers. Paul just wanted to throw in,
I'm coming.
I'm coming. So please, I want to see you face to face, me, an old man. I want to see you. He let him know that there's gonna very soon. I don't know what this time period, but it was going to be soon enough that, when someone tells you prepare a guest room, it's going to be within the next season. That, oh, Paul's coming. So now there's a time bound that it's not going to be like when you get around to it, whenever.
And he's going to say, how's it going with Onesimus?
It could be in heaven. In heaven one day when I see you, it's like, no, I'm prepare a guest room.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Think about if somebody told you, you know what, prepare a guest room for me. Yeah, it's coming. Accountability is important. It's not to be mean. It's not to be not to be critical or to raise your voice. We said Thursday. It's for you to be able to at least have something to talk about. And if it goes well, and to talk about even if it doesn't go well.
To learn from it.
Not to beat your spouse up, but like we're talking about these check-ins, you can, when you have your check-in, you can say, you know what, man, I really was kind of disappointed this week because you had said that you would really just take out the garbage without me asking. And, it was rough. It didn't quite happen this week. But you got to have a real talk. Like one thing I've learned is, and we shared this before, it keeps coming up. Integrity is big. Like being able to follow through on what you say. I'll be honest. So funny. We talk about sex. We were talking about sex a little bit. The biggest issue I saw with couples with sex, and this is consistent. This is, I guess, a little different topic we could hit. The biggest issue I saw with sex, for example, is integrity. Spouses would make verbal commitments that they wouldn't follow through on. And then that just leads to bitterness. So I guess that goes back to not being heard. But I think sometimes, and this is on the other side, for those of us who may be on the receiving end of our spouse feels like they're not listened to, is we've got to be very wise about, man, is my wife feels like, or husband feels like they're not heard. Am I doing what I said I would do? Or am I avoiding it, rationalizing it, and making excuses? That's for
Or
the other side.
or for us, it was other people would ask me to do things and I would kill myself to get it done.
Oh, wow, that's good.
But Antoine would ask me, and it was like, well, if I get to it, I get to it. Now, I wouldn't say that out loud, but at the end of the day, that was my attitude, right? So I thought of two things. I thought of one, letting your yes be yes.
Let your yes be yes. The Lord said it explicitly.
And then there's another scripture that says, who keeps his word even when it hurts. And honestly, in our marriage, I've had to really, and for the sake of Antoine feeling heard, right? That he says something, because a couple of times he would tell me, if it was such and such, you would have done it. If it was such and such, you wouldn't have been, you wouldn't have forgot.
Right.
And that was my integrity on the line, right? And that was my flippancy to say yes, yeah, but not really counting the cost that I'm going to really do it. And so Antoine would have a reason to yell. He didn't, but he had a reason. And those are two things that helped me. My yes being yes, and that even when it hurts. So you said you're going to do this, so you might have to stay up a little late. You might have to go to the store right now and get it done. You might have to whatever, but you're going to keep your word. You're going to get up, get that shower, and come to bed fresh and ready, because you said, this is what you said, this is what you committed. And if you was going to work, you go to work tired. So you're going to keep your word with Antoine even tired. And so yeah, so that's part of being heard too. So I definitely.
So in terms of absolutely true, and how to be heard without raising your voice. On that note, just a review. Look, really make sure that your spouse also hears the good that you are doing and who you are to them. Please make sure they hear that. Maybe the reason you're not being heard is they don't hear enough of the good coming from you, and that's why they're kind of not hearing the other stuff. Another thing we shared was it's got to be a specific request. Maybe you're not being heard because you're speaking so globally that there's nothing to hear. It's like there's nothing really to do, and so you're feeling frustrated. But it's because it's not a request, letting your spouse shine for you. And similarly, maybe you're not being heard because which is similar. There's no accountability because there's no time. There's no dates on things. When do you want this request to be made, and how are we going to follow up on it? Do we have people in our lives that are objective, that can help us? I'll be honest with you. One of the things that marriage counseling does for those who go the route of a marriage counseling times is it offers accountability. That's really what I offer. That's
really what it is. It's true.
They're adults. I'm not their boss, whatever. But there's something about a third person who's objective hearing things, and you're following up every week.
And you're going to talk about it.
Oh man, when you get together, we're going to talk about this. It's just accountability.
Yeah, whereas with yourself, you could just ignore it and kind of kick the can along.
You can kick the can down the road. One of the benefits of doing the check-ins we just themed this whole series on is it is about accountability. Where week to week things just don't build, and you got 7 months where you don't feel heard. Why? Because you've been dealing with it every week. Things as Solomon was wise, that little phrase, the little foxes destroy the vineyard. He's talking about in relationships, it's those small grievances, but it's thousands of them that really hurt marriages. Even from a clinical perspective, they found that that's what really ruins the emotional tone. It's small hurts that accumulate over the years. And so you need accountability so things don't build up. All accountability means is to count. It doesn't mean to yell, rebuke, make your pals feel bad. It's just merely be detailed and have an account. I want to give an encouragement and challenge for everybody this week. I may be preaching to the choir. Please do not listen to these videos for entertainment. And I'm dead serious. Please don't. You don't need that. There's a lot of things you listen to for entertainment that are fun and far more interesting than us. Use this as a great tool to enhance your marriage
and the marriage of the people you know.
And the marriage of the people. Please don't use it for entertainment. We format it in an entertainment style because that is our world. But we really want to make this a thing that really can help. Really can help. If you can commit to having that time with your spouse every week, with or without us on video, you will have a wonderful tool in your toolbox to helping your marriage grow. I recommend that. Like if you could look beyond, you maybe say, man, I don't know. I just trust me. That's just one thing. You know what I'm saying?
And this week I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about just some stuff in their marriage, and one of the things was something that they had committed to doing, and they weren't doing it, and the person was really like at a frustration place. And I said to them, I said, Antoine and I are really a proponent of the 5 Ps. I said, where in your schedule are you meeting every week to talk about what's going on? And I could tell you in like 95% of the cases, when people come to me and Antoine with like a frustrating issue, it's because you haven't been talking about it weekly. And so what Antoine's saying about being heard and accountability, we need it. But throughout the week, you remember we talked about the 1-to-5 ratio. If 5 times throughout the week you're giving praise, giving praise, giving praise, giving praise, if you have to correct once a week, it goes down smoother.
Much smoother.
But this check-in time once a week in marriage, listen, you could do it for free or you could pay somebody. But either way, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's a necessity for a good marriage. Like if we had to write a book, the necessity for a good marriage is the check-in time a week.
Yeah, it's to be honest, it's being, but what's the foundation that predates living a reflective life?
It's reflective.
If you live your life on automatic and you have a marriage that's on automatic, you are very vulnerable to it being destroyed or being maligned. If you live your life if you begin every single day, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, that implies you live your life intentionally. You're thinking, man, I'm going to live this way today. I'm going to live to identify and involve myself with what God is doing in this life. But think about what that is, the Lord's Prayer. It's intentional. Anything that keeps you intentional is going to improve, grow your spirituality and your relationships.
Yeah.
If it's not intentional, the world and schedule will just chew you up, and you'll be like, you'll have this statement, how did we get here? How did we get here? You'll get into that kind of statement. Closeout question you were saying.
So thank you. No, I was going to say, we've talked a lot. We've said a lot. Is there anything before we close out? We have
any questions?
Any questions that you have from anything we said, or how to do any of the things that we just said? Some of you are thanking us for our wisdom, for our transparency, from
thank you.
Being real and relatable. We thank you so much. We thank you for joining us.
Yeah, but any questions?
Any questions?
We're going to get ready to close out. We're trying to keep it definitely to an hour.
Any questions you
We know you guys are busy going to other Zoom meetings.
I know. Thank you for joining us. And
Zoom.
Put it in the chat. No questions.
You're on mute. Oh, sorry. I just had a flash.
Get out of Zoom. Any questions?
Any questions? And give me if there's any one, we're going to do it. It is on a 2-minute delay though. So
what does that mean?
It once somebody types in a question, it takes 120 seconds before it shows up.
Oh, so we probably got it.
But guys, we'll see
down
each
that
other
time.
next week. We'll do the live. We're trying to do the lives once a month.
At the end of the month.
So at the end of the
Sunday.
month, it'll be the last weekend in March. Wouldn't it be awesome if for the end of March, I'd love to hear in the chats, how has it been going with checking in with each other? And when I say how's it going, even if it's not been encouraging, even if it's been like, yeah, we get together and I don't even know if we're doing it right. Or we get together and we ended up having fights 2 out of the 4 times. Or we've been getting together and I don't know, what has it been like doing it? By March, you'll have maybe 3 times where you've done a check-in with your spouse.
Yes.
But I want to hear that. I want to hear how it's going with everybody. Because that's powerful stuff. That could be very, 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 very encouraging. So guys, we want to say thank you so much. Look forward to seeing everybody. Of course, we always got to say, as James reminds us, God willing, right?
Yeah.
That we can be able to have that. The question: how can we refrain from praising and criticizing? Ooh, interesting word. We got a few minutes. I could tell you that right away. Best way to refrain from that and criticizing is first recognizing that you do it. Is you got to just be aware of what it looks like. When you visualize what you want to see, it's not about the negative. If I'm visualizing right now, my husband putting his socks in the hamper, my brain will go to my complaint, the negative side of it. But I'm visualizing the positive. You keep the focus on the request. And my other advice is this: most times we end up criticizing, even when we're trying to praise. A good quality is we sometimes we talk too much. I've seen it. Give your compliment, give your encouragement,
and then
stop. The more we talk, if we are critical in nature, we're going to end up, it'll be, man, thank you so much. You've been really great with the meals this week, especially because I was sick. You've been so good because I was sick Monday, you cooked, Tuesday we cooked. I know throughout our marriage, there's been so many times you've done that for me, except that period where, when usually happens where you don't do anything and you kind of end up just watching TV all the time. And then I remember that time I was real sick. And then what you did was you sat there on that couch and just let me. Man, look, the more you talk,
so stop.
Short
and sweet.
Your brain will lean to the negative. Our brains are negative.
I've done that.
That's just the way we're wired. So keep the intentional note. And if you do, apologize. Says, you know what? Oh,
I went off.
I just want to say again, thank you so much. I was sick this week. You cook every day.
That's good, because it says when words are few,
when words are many,
sin is not absent. So even the Bible was like, if you keep talking, you're gonna eventually
say less. That's my best advice.
That's good. Short and sweet.
Say less. Say it and then stop.
Thank you for asking.
That was a great question.
That was a great question.
So guys, thank you. And God willing, again, we will see each other at the end of March. Have a great, great, great week.
Thank you. Here we go.